And now, Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. What a wonderful guest we have today, Beverlye Hyman Fead. Beverlye is an author. She's an artist. She's an activist. And she's all sorts of things that we're going to be getting into. Beverlye, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Deborah. I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Boy, coming from you. Am I allowed to start with something that very often is sort of taboo? Everyone,
Yes.
please look at beautiful Beverlye. Beverlye, would you tell us how old you are, please?
How old I am today or how old I'll be tomorrow?
How old will you be tomorrow?
87.
Okay, guys, I'm telling you this for a reason, because Beverlye has been through so much in her life and survived a great deal and is still smiling and looking radiant and gorgeous. And anybody should look and sound and think like Beverlye at such an
Thank
age. So,
you.
by the way, happy birthday to you and
Thank you.
congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your latest book, which is Aging in High Heels. Is this your third book, Beverlye?
Yes.
It's your third book. You
Yes.
also wrote I Can Do This. I believe this one was your first book.
Right.
And this one I love. This one I really love. Nana, what's cancer?
Exactly.
We're going to go through all of these, but why don't we start with this one, Aging in High Heels? Why did you decide to write this book, Bev?
Well, I had a blog, Aging in High Heels. I just had thoughts about aging that I wanted to see if other people my age, or actually we're all aging, Deborah, right? From the minute we're born. So I just wanted to put down thoughts. And I started this blog, Aging in High Heels, and it became very popular. And I took that blog and then other situations and other interviews with people and other thoughts and put it together and made a book out of it.
And basically, though, what is it about? What are you trying to talk about with people about aging in high heels, about looking forward for all the time that we have left and what we want to do, or looking back perhaps and trying to change things that maybe didn't go so well? I mean, what is the message there with aging in high heels?
Well, a couple of things. And what you just mentioned, looking back and trying to change the things. One of my favorite quotes is Robert Frost, who said, when asked if he had hope for the future, he said, yes, and for the past also, because I did the best I could for who I was and what I knew at the time. And I think as I grow older, I've learned to forgive myself for different things that I did in the past that I wish I would have done differently, because that's the best I knew at the time, and that's who I was at the time. And I think that's one of the things that happens to us as we grow older. Mostly the blog is about how different aging is today than it was 20, 30 years ago. When I grew up, at 65, father retired and sat on the couch and smoked his Chesterfields and watched the baseball game and waited until his end came. A woman that was widowed at 50 stayed widowed all her life. That was just the way it was. And everybody died usually between 70 and 75 if they lived a long life. Well, today at 75, everybody's on a dating app and finding a new boyfriend and getting a new career and starting a new company. And it's a whole different thing. We know about exercise, we know about nutrition, we know about certain medicines and vitamins we didn't know about 20, 30 years ago. Our parents didn't know about them. And so we have second and third and fourth chapters to our lives. And that's really what I want people to know is it's a different world today. When you turn 60, don't think your life is over, because I didn't write my first book until I was 68. I did my TED Talk at 82. I was honored in Washington at 85. My life really became bigger and bigger and bigger as I grew older and older.
But it took a lot for you to get there, right? Let's go back. Let's talk about you in college. Let's talk about how old you were when you got married, because you are a very different lady at 65 and almost 87 than you were at 21, correct?
Oh, yes.
Let's
I
talk about
dropped
that.
out of college at 19 to get married, which
Mm,
was not unusual in my day. We're
mhm.
talking 1952. And if you weren't married by the time you were 25, there was something wrong with you. So I had both my children by the time I was 23, and
Ugh.
I was just sitting in the park and being a wife and mother and supporting my husband and his business and mentally and physically, and that was our lives. That's what we expected of ourselves at
But
that
you had
time.
always been an artist, right? Because your
Yes,
sister, I believe, took you to your first art lesson. I think you were 13 years of age. Is that correct?
I was 23, but it
You
had
were
a three in it.
23?
Yeah,
Wait, sorry, I have a little bit of dyslexia. Numbers, I'm always flipping around. Okay,
that's
so
okay.
13, you were 13 plus 10. So you went to your first art class, and that
Yes,
really turned you on, didn't it? It really
yes,
did something to you. Yeah,
yes, it
talk
did.
about it.
It changed my life. I sat there with that um, with the brush, and I just didn't know that hours had passed by. It was just the most amazing feeling. I felt at home, and I painted for many, many years and had lots of exhibitions. It was a wonderful time of my life. And just recently, actually, during the pandemic, I've gone back to art again.
Can I tell you something? With our promo that we put on Facebook and Instagram today, a friend of mine wrote to me and sent me one of your pictures and said, "You won't believe this. I took this from my parents' house." She
Oh,
has it. She has I don't know if you know the Sherrill family, Jerry
yes, I
Sherrill.
do. I do know the
It's
Sorrell family.
Well, there you go. My friend has your one of your paintings, and by the
The
way, it's
daughter?
stunning. Yes, she's a friend of mine, Janine,
Oh,
and she
well, she
has.
goes with a friend of ours, Stevie Tyrell.
I know. See, like talk about like 6 degrees of separation. It's like 2 degrees of separation.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I know Steve as well. But she has that beautiful painting. She was so excited when she
How
saw that I
nice.
was interviewing. But your artwork is stunning.
Thank you.
Um, really, really beautiful. But I wanted to make sure to tell you that.
Thank you.
Also, though, you were doing this while you were a young mom, right?
Yes. Yes. I would do it while the kids were in school. So I would finish by the time I had carpool and, take them to their various classes. And I did it on my own time, but I enjoyed it immensely.
So even though you were relegated as mom, which was great, you had so much in you that you wanted to do, right? You were doing your artwork. Didn't you also work and you worked in Italy? Could you tell us a little bit about what you were doing in those early days?
Well, Italy came later after I divorced my husband. My
Hmm.
kids by that time were 27 and 25. And I designed ceramics for an old 2,000-year-old factory, a fabrica
Incredible.
in Deruta, Italy. And it was an incredible experience. I went for 3 weeks a year, and I worked with only Italian speaking women and men and stayed in a little agriturismo where it was all Italian speaking people. And it was just an incredible experience. I designed ceramics and we sold them. We sold them in the States and we sold them everywhere. He had guest artists come from all over the world, all different countries, and I was one of the guest artists.
But to work your way up to that point, right? You had been doing art all those years while you were married to your first husband, who I know
Yes.
is a very influential man. Why did you decide after all those years of being married to leave your first husband?
Well, as I look back, I think it had a lot to do with my grandmother, my mother, and my two sisters all died young from cancer. They all
Mm.
died before the age of 64. And I just thought to myself, he wants a certain kind of life, and I want a certain kind of life. And who knows how long our lives will be. I want to do
Mm.
what I would like to do. My children are grown. That job is done, although it's really never done.
Never.
And I want to pursue my artistic endeavors. And um, and so I left. And it was a very hard thing to do, much harder than I realized. Uh,
Mm.
I moved to a town where I knew nobody. I moved to Montecito, which was just at that time wasn't really even discovered, but it was just a wonderful move for me. And I've been here 35 years since,
Hmm.
uh, and pursued all kinds of artistic endeavors, writing, painting, designing ceramics, designing homes. I pursued all the things I ever wanted to pursue.
Beverlye, I want you to talk to those women out there who are afraid to leave, who feel like they can't leave, either because their kids are still young, and or some people they have older kids and they're still afraid to leave, saying, "Well, I've stayed this long." What would you say to them if they just don't have the nerve to do it?
I would say first try to be your own self within the marriage. And if you have the kind of husband that's very domineering and doesn't want you to be that, then you have to leave to be your own self. You have to give yourself that space. We only have that one miserable, wonderful little life. And so we have to make the most of it. It's up to us to find that life. And if it takes leaving your family, you'll never leave your family. You only leave your husband. You'll always have your family.
Mm.
So if it takes that, then you owe it to yourself to do that. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I owe it to myself. This is what I need.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, people out there go leave your marriages, but I am saying for those who are afraid and have thought about it, you can find the courage. You found the courage, especially at a time when a lot of people weren't leaving their husbands either.
That's
That's another
true.
thing, right?
That's
So that
true.
takes a lot of guts. Let's talk about your health. You talked about your mom, you talked about your sister. Tell me about your health, please.
Well, as you know, my all the women in my family died of different kinds of cancer before they were 64. One sister died at 55, my eldest sister, and I got a bout of cancer, a little cancer. Um, I had a complete hysterectomy when I think I was 50. And I thought, oh, I'm so lucky. All the margins are clean, and they took, it was just in the lining of my uterus and everything was clean. And I thought, I got my cancer and it's nothing. Well, 11 years later, it seems as though that little tiny cancer that I had came roaring back. And
Mm.
before I got to the doctor, um, which I just had pains, some stomach pains in my abdomen, maybe a month before. And before I got to the doctor, it was already stage 4. And it was quite shocking. Um, they did several tests and they finally did an intensive test that came up with the fact that I had 8 tumors in the lining of my abdomen. And the doctor said, "This
Wow.
is Friday. I want you in the hospital on Monday to do 4 kinds of chemotherapy for 3 weeks at a time. You'll get very sick, and then you'll have an operation um, to um, to replace things in your stomach, and then you'll have more chemotherapy." And I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I want more opinions." So we got it by the end, we had 5 opinions. The first 3 all agreed with the first doctor and said, and when I asked what would happen if I didn't do this, they said, you have 2 months to live. So
Wow, that's scary.
it's pretty scary. And
Yeah.
3 doctors all agreed I had 2 months to live. By the time I got to the 4th doctor, he was the only one that went back into my first cells from my first cancer and found out that they had indeed come over into my abdomen, thus making my cancer hormone driven, which was the good news. It's amazing what good news can look like in that situation. So that was the good news because we were now open to a brand new therapy called hormone therapy. And the other one, which was brand new, was target therapy. So meaning that they would give me hormone blockers and it would target just the places where I had cancer, which happened to be just about everywhere.
By the way, when was this? How long ago was this?
19 years.
Right. And don't you still live with that to this day?
Yes. And I still am on the same experimental treatment. I still take the shot and the pill. So the fourth and fifth doctor went together and came up with this experimental treatment of a shot and a pill. I never had chemo. I never had an operation. And I've been on this shot and a pill to this day. And I'm knocking wood, Deborah. And I feel wonderful. And I've really had the most powerful and productive years these last 19 years of my life.
Including your relationships, right? Let's talk a little bit about.
Well, I remarried.
Yeah.
I remarried a wonderful man, and he has 2 children, and I have 2 children. And between us, we have 5 grandchildren. And our grandchildren are the loves of our lives, of course, along with our children. And we live in Montecito. We had an apartment in LA for many years. He was in the music business. That's how he knows Stevie Tyrell.
Yeah.
And we've had a wonderful time together. And he's been very supportive of whatever I do.
I think this book is extraordinary that you wrote with your granddaughter, Nana, What's Cancer? And I know your granddaughter and I know your daughter as well, lovely people. This was an important book to write for the young people who are scared, right? Who might be scared about their parent or their grandparent having cancer. Can you tell me about the experience of writing this book?
It was a marvelous experience.
Yeah.
My granddaughter called me one day. She was 9 at the time. And she said, Nana, I wanted to give a book review to my class. She was in the 2nd grade, I think, or maybe 3rd grade. But my mom said she wanted to give a book review on my first book, I Can Do This. But my mom said, kids my age don't really know about cancer like I do, so it wouldn't be a good idea. So I think, and this is exactly what she said, I think you and I should write a book together. And I thought I'd humor her, and we'd write a book together, and I'd put it in a loose leaf notebook, and I'd take it and have it Xeroxed and give it to her, and that would be it. But at that time, I was also made a legislative ambassador for the American Cancer Society. And I found out that they had a publishing arm. So I told them about this idea, and they said they would love to do it.
Oh, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. So Tessa she was very diligent about it. She would come over about once a week, and we would go next door to Hamburger Hamlet and sit, and she'd have a sundae or something. And she would ask me questions and I would answer them. And what I didn't know, I researched, and we went over and did different questions and erased some and put some back in. And what can be better than working with your grandchild?
Absolutely. For those who don't know this, you have your own Wikipedia page because you have done so much, because you are so well known for your art, for your speaking engagements, your blog, your books. How does that feel to have your own
wonderful.
Wikipedia?
It feels wonderful, really, because I thought no one was looking. Right. I just did what I wanted to do. And I was honored in 2019 by the Aging Alliance in Washington, D.C., by my good friend Sue Peshin. And they gave me the perennial award that Nancy Pelosi had won the year before for the person that influences young people the most of 2019. And I said, this is just what I like to do. I didn't think anybody was looking or paying any attention. And I don't really consider it my body of work. I just consider it things I wanted to do that I had inside of me.
That's what I find most interesting about you, and that I hope people get out of this interview. There are no age limits. None.
That's true. Exactly.
But we do have time, only a certain amount of time. And if you want to do something, I look at you as such an inspiration. I think you don't look at what's left. You just say to yourself, let's do it, because there may not be a lot of time left, correct? Like, how do you get through to people who are afraid to make change, who procrastinate, for example? you're someone who's about to celebrate a birthday and who's lived a certain number of years. What would you like to say to them? People
I
who are
would
just
like to say
holding off.
to them to come on, let's get off your butts. It's time to really put down what you feel, let other people hear it, because what you say is invaluable, whether you think so or not. You'd be surprised. And what you want to do is invaluable. You want to leave your mark on the world, and you want to help other people. You want to help those coming up behind us, because we're a breakthrough generation. My generation is a breakthrough generation. We've lived longer and we've lived life in a better way than anybody before us. And we're taking these bonus years and making them count. So you take your years and make them count too. And all you have to do is just start. Nobody's looking, just start and do what you want to do. And you'll see it'll turn into a body of work you didn't even realize you were doing.
When you speak before groups of people, who inspires you the most?
Oh, there are so many people that inspire me. Of course, there was nobody like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What an inspiration. Dianne Feinstein inspires me. Oh, there's so many women that are doing wonderful things. Pat Mitchell, the model Carmen, who is 85 years old and busier than she ever was in her life. No model ever went past 30 before.
If I may, that's what I'm hoping for, that models can be any age, 100 to 80, 12, right. Including, I was just having a talk with a friend of mine while on a bike ride about advertising. And he was saying to me, advertisers still only want a certain demographic. I'm like, and what would that be? And he was insisting that a certain age. I said, explain why. And he said, because older people don't spend their money. And I said, wrong. Maybe back in the day, they stuck to their little brand of detergent, but I don't think that's true anymore. I think if they, whatever money they have, a lot or a little, I think women in particular are willing to experiment and purchase new items and makeup. And like, I don't want to see a makeup brand for somebody that's 20. I want to see one for somebody that's my age. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And I think consumers are beginning to figure that out. I think products are being made for us. I think clothes are being made for us.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I want to mention, Deborah, and I don't want to leave out, which is so important for people of every age, is exercise. I'm so happy I heard you say you were on a bike ride, because exercise is such an important component of growing older. As long as you keep the parts moving in any way that you can do it, it doesn't matter how you do it or how long you do it or how often, but you must do exercise to keep your mind and your body healthy.
Here's something a lot of women don't do. They don't put themselves first. Instead, they put themselves last, behind their family, behind whatever work they have, chores. How can you sort of change that thinking? Because even myself, right? I had the past 2 days, that would be Monday and Tuesday. I spent Monday and Tuesday doing stuff for everybody else. And I was a little resentful about it because I had stuff I had to do for me. So what do you say to people who often put themselves last? Not that I do that, but I'm saying we fall into it, right?
We do. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. I've spent a lot of time thinking about, were we born that way? Is that something that's just in women? Was that something we were always taught? Is that something, because I still do it, Deborah. I still do it. I have a husband that isn't 100% well, and I take care of him, and I enjoy it and resent it sometimes too. And I'll forget to, I'll have my nails done next week. I'll do that next week. And I put things off because it's my time to take care of him. And actually, I feel not only I need to, but I want to. It's something that's just in me. And I don't know if that's just something that comes naturally to women or not, but it's easy to ignore yourself, and we must remember ourselves and do things for ourselves.
So are you still painting quite a bit and doing pottery? Tell me what you're doing currently. I mean, you have your latest book here, Aging in High Heels, which by the way is a great read. It's also a really fun read.
Thank you.
I tend to pick up books and I like to look at them chapter by chapter, and I flip around a little bit, and it's easy to do that.
That's the kind of book it is anyway.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say to people. This is easy to do this with and get a little bit of inspiration. There's one chapter in particular that I really enjoyed. And I also like the way you talk about your memories of things. Um, you talk about the ultimate emotion. That was actually also one of my favorite chapters. But what is next for you? Do you have another book in you? Are you?
I do.
I know you're. Yeah. Tell me about it.
It's called A Race to the Finish. And it's about my husband, my dog, and myself. And we've all got some sort of ailments, but hopefully it's not going to be sad. It's going to be funny, and it's going to be, you could laugh a little bit and you could cry a little bit. And it's about people our age, I guess, and what they go through, what they think. And so that's my next project.
When you're saying what they think, you mean you're saying, hey, I may not be here in 30 years, so
Or
I
10.
really better, or 10, so I better do this now. I mean, to a certain extent, we all know that's possible for all of us, but as we reach a certain age, it's just a reality, right?
Right. But here again, we've got Norman Lear. I mean, so who knows? He's still creating and doing incredible things at 98.
But I love that that's your next chapter, so to speak, to talk about what is next. I think that's good. When can we expect that?
Oh, I've just started writing it and keeping notes on it. So by next year, I hope.
For all the time that you've been around health scares, 2 marriages, what would you like to tell people that you've learned? Not really the most, but something that you take with you every day that you live by that's important.
I think that the thing I've learned the most, and that I want to tell young girls, middle-aged women, and women my age, if you take yourself seriously, everyone else will too. Believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. Believe in what you do well. Take yourself seriously, and everyone else will too. Otherwise, people will fluff you off.
And what about for mistakes that a lot of people are sort of clinging on to, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that? What do you say about that? I know a lot of people who are like, oh, if I only had.
Well, we all do that. Late at night, in the middle of the night, those always creep up. But we've got to learn to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, because that's who we were at the time and that's what we knew at the time. So we have to learn to forgive ourselves, and we have to learn to think, I want this as the next project, and go on thinking about the next thing and the next thing. When I go to talk at assisted living homes, I find that there are people in their 80s and 90s that are doing just such wonderful things, and getting married, by the way.
Oh, I love that.
I met a couple at 89. They were both 89 and got married.
That's adorable.
They were looking towards the future. They weren't looking towards the past.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. I so appreciate that you joined us today. And any parting words you want to tell to our audience, aside from please pick up all 3 books and this one, Aging in High Heels, and also about your blog, how people can look you up and find you?
Well, my blog is just going to restart. I've had some technical problems. So my blog will be Aging in High Heels. You'll be able to find it. My parting words will be that life isn't over because you have a wrinkle, or because you turn 60, or because you turn 70. There are so many possibilities available to all of us as we grow older. And yes, we have wisdom, and that doesn't always take care of the different ailments that we get along the way, but that's just part of the deal. And we just have to think of it as a blip in the road and go on with our lives, because we're lucky. We're lucky, this generation and beyond, coming up behind us, we're lucky.
We are lucky. And to live with some kind of purpose, whatever that purpose is to each of us, right? I mean, just find it. I know that that's a big buzzword, what's your purpose? But really, we all have one. And whatever it is for you, may not be for anybody else, and that's okay too. Beverlye
That's right.
Hyman Fead, go ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. I really, really enjoyed having you. Happy birthday to you. How are you celebrating your birthday?
Thank you. Oh, with a bunch of women friends, and then with my kids and grandchildren. And my husband is having a lovely lunch just for my family. So it's really going to be a nice birthday. And
Yeah,
Deborah,
happy
you make
birthday.
it so easy to talk. You make it so easy to answer. You ask so many wonderful questions. It's really been a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you for saying that because I think your message is so important. I want more people to hear it because they shouldn't be afraid moving forward in their lives. We should, just take a chapter from your book and just use that as some inspiration, right? We can
I
continue.
hope so.
Anyway, I hope so too. Thank you so much, Beverlye. And I also want to say to my audience, our show is sponsored by HarperCollins Books. And they'd love for you to pick up one of their latest books that they love for the summer, The Lost and Found Bookshop, and also FahertyBrand.com. Faherty's got just some phenomenal, comfy clothes for summer, linen, all organic fabric. So I'd like to thank both of them as sponsors to Deborah Kobylt Live. And thank you, Beverlye, for joining us. Please look
Thank
up
you,
Beverlye.
Deborah.
Please, purchase her books on Amazon and look up her website.
I'll let you know
Beverlye,
when the new one's coming.
oh, please, that'd be great. I'd love to
Okay.
attend a reading. That'd be fun.
Okay, good.
And thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Deborah Kobylt Live. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I just read the most amazing book, and I'd love to recommend it to all of my viewers and listeners. It's called The Lost and Found Bookshop by New York Times bestseller Susan Wiggs, and it's available now on paperback at HarperCollins.com. It is perfect as a summer read by the pool, the beach, the lake, or if you're traveling by plane. So here's the premise. Natalie Harper inherits a financially strapped bookshop in San Francisco after her mother dies. She also becomes the caretaker to her grandfather, and it's books that become a welcome retreat for her grief and tough times. People magazine calls the book a feel good family saga. I call it incredible. In fact, I felt for Natalie and I wanted to know what else she found inside the pages of those books. The Lost and Found Bookshop is about life's ups and downs and how we get through them. Pick it up at harpercollins.com and remember, tell them Deborah Kobylt sent you. That's the Lost and Found Bookshop. I love our latest collaboration, Faherty. I'm so obsessed with their products that over the weekend I purchased everything from hats, shorts, sundresses, and even a few shirts for my husband at their Malibu store close to where I live. At Faherty, summer is in their DNA, and everything from their blankets to shorts and tees are beautifully woven organic materials, and that's everything to me. Faherty is about family, and I was so excited to learn that the family who actually started Faherty were from Spring Lake, New Jersey, where I spent so many summers as a kid. And they care about what I care about: simple, top quality clothes for every day, for travel, casual evenings, just the way we live in our family. So please shop FahertyBrand.com and make sure to put in the code DEB20 for your special